Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS, presenting to you the daily quiz for 5th of December 2022. But before we begin, here is a gentle reminder to join our official Telegram channel for all the current affairs updates on our workshops, scholarship tests and much more. You can do so by clicking on the link given in the description box below. Now let us begin and take a look at the first question for today. How many of the following volcanoes sit along the Pacific Ring of Fire? Number 1, Mount Semeru. Number 2, Mount Etna. Number 3, St. Helens. Number 4, Tal volcano. What is the context? This article in the Indian Express newspaper today talks about a violent eruption at Mount Semeru in Java in Indonesia. See, Semeru, which is also known as the Great Mountain, is the highest volcano in Java and one of the most active volcanoes. It had previously erupted in the year 2021. Here, we should know that Indonesia, with the maximum number of active volcanoes in the world, is prone to seismic upheaval because of its location on the Pacific Ring of Fire. And it is in this context that we've taken up this question for discussion. See, whenever such a place is in news, always pull your atlas out and locate it on the map. Before we answer this question, we must know what Pacific Ring of Fire is. The Ring of Fire, also called as the Circum-Pacific Belt, is a path along the Pacific Ocean. And this path is characterized by active volcanoes and frequent earthquakes. Now talking about its location on the map. As you can see in this image here, the horseshoe shaped area here is the Pacific Ring of Fire. It traces the boundaries between several tectonic plates. Bolivia, Chile, Ecuador, Philippines, Indonesia, Russia, United States, New Zealand and Antarctica are some of the important places that are located along the Pacific Ring of Fire. Please note that more than 75% of the Earth's volcanoes and 90% of the earthquakes are witnessed here, and that is why it is called as the Ring of Fire. Now talking about our question. Say Mount Semeru, that is in news here, is in the Java Trench. So it lies along the Pacific Ring of Fire. Now Mount Helens. Mount Helens is in southwestern Washington in the US, which is also on the Pacific Ring of Fire. The Tal volcano, which is in our question, is in Philippines and is also along the Pacific Ring of Fire. But Mount Etna is on the east coast of Sicily in Italy. So coming back to our question, only Mount Semeru, St. Helens and Tal volcano are along the Pacific Ring of Fire. Therefore, the right answer to our question would be option C, 3 only. Moving on to question number 2. Tiangong, recently seen in news, is option A, a modular space station being built as a collaborative project involving space agencies of SCO nations. Here SCO stands for Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Option B, Chinese Lunar Exploration Program. Option C, a Chinese space station being built in low Earth orbit. Option D, South Korea's space mission to Mars. What is the context? This snippet from the Hindu newspaper today says that 3 Chinese astronauts have returned back to Earth after 6-month-long mission, which is a part of China's ambitious space program of building a space station, which is named Tiangong. Say the Tiangong space station is a Chinese space station that is being built in the low Earth orbit between 340 and 450 kilometers above the Earth. It is a part of China's manned space program and is the country's first long-term space station. So this strategically significant space station project for China had entered the final phase when these 3 astronauts had entered the orbiting module of the Tiangong space station. They were launched into the designated orbit by the Shenzhou 14 spacecraft. Please remember these names. So now coming back to our question, the right answer to our question here would be option C. Now here is a task for you for today. The task is to find out what Tianhe is. We have discussed this in our earlier sessions, so do let me know your answers in the comment section below. Moving on to question number 3. Which of the following denotes the extent of inflation in the Indian economy excluding the inflation in food and fuel? Option A, headline inflation. Option B, underlying inflation. Option C, shrinkflation. Option D, core inflation. Before we answer this question, first of all, let us understand what inflation is. See, inflation is a general increase in the prices of goods and services in any economy. So, when the general price level rises, each unit of currency that you have can buy you fewer goods and services. So, this reduces the purchasing power of money. Correct? Now, this inflation can be classified into different types. By pace, it is classified as pacing inflation, creeping inflation, walking and galloping inflation. And inflation by cause can be classified as demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. You would have covered all of this while studying microeconomics or also while covering the basic NCERT books. If not, do look it up today. Now, what we will talk about today to answer this question is measures of inflation. One being core inflation and the other being headline inflation. See, headline inflation is the measure of total inflation within an economy. It includes the price rise in food, fuel and also all the other commodities. But core inflation, which is also a term used to denote the extent of inflation in an economy, does not consider the inflation in food and fuel. This is a concept that is derived from the headline inflation. So, core inflation is nothing but headline inflation minus the food and fuel inflation. So, the right answer to our question here would be option D, core inflation. A more unofficial measure of inflation would be shrinkflation. What is shrinkflation? It refers to the reduction of a package's contents as a result of high inflation. So instead of increasing the prices, what the manufacturers do is reduce the package's contents. Another important point for you to remember here is sometimes core inflation is also called as underlying inflation. Please note that this is underlying and not underlying inflation. The reason we have picked this question up for discussion is because of the reference to food inflation in the Indian Express newspaper today. This article has been published in the backdrop of the Monetary Policy Committee's meeting today. Now let us take up the fourth question for today. How many of the following is or are correctly matched? We have seaport projects and the states that they are in. Number 1, Vadwan Port Project, Maharashtra. Number 2, Vizhinjam Port Project, Tamil Nadu. Number 3, Tadadi Port Project, Karnataka. Number 4, Sagar Port Project, West Bengal. What is the context? This article in the Hindu newspaper today talks about the issue over Vizhinjam Port Project and hence this question. See, we have all heard of Sagarmala project, right? Through the Sagarmala project, the government of India plans to transform the ports that are there in the country so that logistic costs can be reduced for domestic as well as import-export cargo. Now, under this project, the government had planned 6 mega ports, namely Vizhinjam International Seaport in Kerala, Kolachal Seaport in Tamil Nadu, Vadhavan Port in Maharashtra, Tadadi project in Karnataka, Machilipatnam Port in Andhra Pradesh and Sagar Island Port in West Bengal. So when we take a look at our question, we see that only 2 would be incorrectly matched. Therefore, the right answer to our question here would be option C, 3 only. Now let us take up a previous year question from Prelims paper 2017. What is the application of somatic cell nuclear transfer technology or SCNT technology? Option A, production of biolarvicides. Option B, manufacture of biodegradable plastics. Option C, reproductive cloning of animals. Option D, production of organisms free of diseases. This somatic cell nuclear transfer technology was first used by Ian Wilmot and his colleagues for cloning the sheep named Dolly in the year 1996. Please note that Dolly was the first ever mammal to be cloned. Now let us understand the context in which this question was asked in 2017. This was asked in the context of cloning of buffaloes by using the adult somatic cells of proven male or quality females. It was in news that this technology had brought about a revolution by multiplying the superior buffalo germplasm in the country. So the right answer here would be option C. Now coming to the fact of the day for today, which is Indo-Pacific Parks Partnership. What is the context? This article in the Indian Express newspaper today says that as a result of the initiative with the partnership between India and France, the animal population in Kaziranga is the healthiest it has ever been. Now let us understand the Indo-Pacific Parks Partnership. As a result of this partnership, about 35 tall embankments or false islands have been installed in the Kaziranga Park to ensure that the animals can seek refuge during the annual flooding in Assam. In this context, let us talk about the Indo-Pacific Parks Partnership or I3P in detail. Here we must understand that France and India, who are both the members of High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People, have developed a strong, innovative and multi-dimensional partnership which is aimed at promoting sustainable approach in the Indo-Pacific region. And this is being done through the development of protected areas as well as natural parks through the Indo-Pacific Parks Partnership. This particular initiative will facilitate partnership activities for interested natural parks of the Indo-Pacific region. See, these activities include biodiversity conservation, wildlife management, and also engagement with the local communities. So what are the key objectives of this Indo-Pacific Parks Partnership? The key objective is to build capacities in the Indo-Pacific region in terms of sustainable management of protected areas by gathering or sharing the experiences as well as expertise. So the partnership aims to ensure sharing of best practices, highlight the innovative experiences which can ensure that there is a sustainable, inclusive and efficient natural resource preservation. Right? Now coming to the key components of this I3P. The key components would revolve around the following themes. Those are biodiversity conservation, which is done through strategies for preservation and restoration as well as anti-poaching and illegal logging efforts. The second one would be sustainable tourism development. And the final theme is government reinforcement. This is done by creating an integrated management platform for territorial monitoring of natural disasters, fires, and also the tourist flows in these regions. So ultimately, the Indo-Pacific region, which is one of the most biologically rich regions of the planet, will stand to benefit from the Indo-Pacific Parks Partnership. And our own state of Assam has seen the first step to healthy ecosystem in its Kaziranga National Park. That is all for today. Thank you for being with us. Keep watching and keep learning.